Before you panic about the dollar's sudden drop, here's what you need to understand. Your dollar died a little on Tuesday. And I don't mean that in some philosophical way. I don't mean that in some complicated Wall Street way that only finance bros understand. I mean the actual money sitting in your bank account right now. The money you worked overtime for. The money you're saving for your kids' college. The money you're putting away for retirement. It lost value, real value in 60 minutes. 60 minutes. The length of one Netflix episode. That's how long it took for billions of dollars in value to vanish. And the President of the United States looked at a reporter and said one word, "Great." Now, before you click away, before you think this is just another political video, I need you to understand something. This is not about whether you love Trump or hate Trump. This is about your rent next month, your groceries next week, your gas tomorrow, your retirement in 10 years. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what happened on that Tuesday in Iowa. You will see the shocking data that mainstream media buried. You will learn what smart money is doing right now while everyone else is distracted. And I will answer the question that's probably in your head right now. Is the dollar actually dying? Or is this just fear-mongering? I'll give you the honest answer with proof. Some of what I'm about to show you, you can Google yourself. In fact, I'll tell you exactly what to search at one point in this video. Please do it. Verify everything. Don't trust me. Trust the data. Let's begin. Welcome to the hidden economy. Drop Save the Dollar in the comments if you're ready to see what's really happening to your money, and subscribe because the next 6 to 12 months are going to be unlike anything we've seen since 1973. That's not an exaggeration. I'll prove it to you in the next few minutes. Let's start with what actually happened. January 27th, 2026, Iowa. President Trump is visiting the state, doing a press event talking about the economy. Reporters are asking questions. One reporter asks a simple question. Mr. President, the dollar has fallen about 10% this year. Do you think it's fallen too much? Now stop right here. I need you to feel the weight of this question. 10% in 1 year. That's not normal. If your house lost 10% of its value, you'd be panicking. If your retirement account dropped 10%, you'd be on the phone with your financial advisor before lunch. The American dollar, the foundation of the entire global economy, dropped 10%. And a reporter is asking the most powerful man in the world if maybe, just maybe, that might be a problem. Trump's answer. And I want you to hear this exactly as he said it. No, I think it's great. I think the value of the dollar, look at the business we're doing. The dollar is doing great. That word, remember it. You're going to hear it echo throughout this entire video. Do you understand what just happened? The world's reserve currency is crashing. And the president says, great, now here's what happened next. And this is where it gets wild. Within 60 minutes of those words, the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index, which measures the dollar against every major currency in the world, recorded its steepest single-day drop in almost a year. The dollar crashed to 95.77, the lowest level since February 2022, 4 years of gains gone 60 minutes. One word, billions in value vanished. Mark Chandler is the chief market strategist at Bannockburn Capital Markets. He's been watching currency markets for decades. You know what he said when Trump made that comment? He said, the market is happy to give it to them. Think about that for a second. The market is happy to give it to them. The whole world was waiting to see if America would defend its currency. And when the president essentially said, I don't mind if it falls, the world said, okay, we'll make it fall more. Here's how I want you to think about this. Imagine you're playing poker. You have a decent hand. Everyone's watching to see if you'll bet big or fold. And instead of keeping a straight face, you show everyone your cards and say, I don't really care if I win this hand. What do you think happens next? Everyone takes your chips. That's what happened to the dollar. But stay with me here because that's not even the shocking part. This wasn't just a bad day for the dollar. This was historic. In the first 6 months of 2025, the dollar fell 10.8% against a basket of major world currencies. You want to know the last time the dollar fell that fast in 6 months? 1973, 52 years ago. Before iPhones, before the internet, before email, before Amazon, before most people watching this video were even born. Let me put that in perspective. Your parents might not have been alive the last time the dollar fell this fast. That's how rare this is. We are living through the fastest dollar decline in half a century. Now here's the question everyone should be asking. Why? Why would the President of the United States be happy about a falling currency? Is he crazy? Is he stupid? Or does he know something we don't? The answer might surprise you. See, there are actually smart people, serious economists, who think a weaker dollar is good for America. And before you dismiss that, hear the argument, because it's not crazy. Stephen Moran is now the chairman of Trump's Council of Economic Advisors. Before he got the job, he wrote a paper arguing that America's problems come from an overvalued dollar. His logic, huh? A strong dollar makes American products expensive overseas. American factories can't compete. Jobs go to China, Mexico, Vietnam. American workers suffer. J.D. Vance, the vice president, said something similar back in 2023. He called the strong dollar a massive subsidy to American consumers, but a massive tax on American producers. So here's the thinking. Here's the strategy. Weaken the dollar. American products become cheaper overseas. Foreigners buy more American stuff. American factories reopen. American workers win. Manufacturing comes back, the middle class rises again. That's why Trump says great. He thinks this is the plan working. And honestly, some economists agree. If American manufacturing actually comes back, if factories actually reopen, if jobs actually return, then maybe the short-term pain is worth the long-term gain. That's one view, and it's not stupid. It's a legitimate economic argument. But here's the other view, and this is the one that affects you directly. A weak dollar is a hidden tax on every single American. And I'm going to show you exactly how this tax works, because once you see it, you'll never unsee it. You walk into Walmart, you buy a television, that TV was made in Asia. The store paid for it in dollars, but now the dollar is worth less. So the store had to pay more dollars to get that same TV. Does Walmart eat that cost? Come on, you know the answer. They pass it to you, the TV costs more, that's the weak dollar tax. You fill up your car. Gas comes from oil. America imports oil. When the dollar weakens, oil costs more in dollar terms. Gas prices rise. But here's the thing most people miss. Doesn't stop at the gas pump. Everything in America moves by truck. Trucks run on gas. When gas costs more, shipping costs more. When shipping costs more, every single product in every single store costs more. Your groceries, your clothes, your medicine, your kids' school supplies, the chair you're sitting on, everything. That's a weak dollar tax. You pay it every single day, and you never voted for it. Now, here's the part that should really bother you. Here's where it gets personal. This tax doesn't hit everyone equally. If you're wealthy, you probably own assets that benefit from a weak dollar. Gold, foreign stocks, international real estate. You might actually be making money from this. Your financial advisor saw this coming months ago and positioned you correctly. But if you're a regular American living paycheck to paycheck, if you're just trying to pay rent, buy groceries, maybe save a little each month, you're getting crushed from every direction. Higher grocery bills, higher gas prices, higher prices on basically everything you buy. And here's the kicker. Your savings, that money sitting in your bank account, it's losing purchasing power every single day the dollar falls. You're not earning less, but you can buy less with what you earn. It's a wealth transfer from people who don't know what's happening to people who do. Ask yourself right now, which side are you on? Okay, now let me show you the three forces that are driving this dollar collapse. Because once you understand these forces, everything starts to make sense, and you'll be able to see what's coming next. Force number one, the tariff earthquake. April 2nd, 2025. President Trump announces what he calls Liberation Day, massive tariffs on imports from almost every country in the world. The goal? Protect American industry, make foreign products expensive so Americans buy American instead. Trump supporters call this a master stroke. Finally, a president willing to fight back against countries that have been taking advantage of America for decades. Trump critics called this economic suicide, a trade war that would backfire and hurt everyone. Here's what actually happened, and I need you to pay attention to these numbers. The stock market didn't just fall, it collapsed. $5 trillion disappeared from the S&P 500 in 3 days. $5 trillion. That's more than the entire GDP of Japan wiped out in 72 hours. More than the entire economy of Germany gone in 3 days. But here's the twist that nobody expected. The dollar didn't strengthen, it weakened. Now wait, that doesn't make sense, right? Normally tariffs strengthen your currency. That's basic economics. Every textbook says so, but not this time. Why? Because tariffs created chaos. And here's something you need to understand about global investors. They hate chaos more than anything else, more than low returns, more than high taxes. They hate uncertainty. And Liberation Day created massive uncertainty. So investors started pulling money out of America and looking for safer places, Europe, Asia, gold, anywhere but here. Carl Shimoda is the chief market strategist at Corp. He works with currencies every single day. You want to know how he described the dollar after Liberation Day? He called it a falling chainsaw, and he said no one is willing to catch it. Write that down, a falling chainsaw. That's what professionals are calling your currency. But that's not even the craziest part. Stay with me here. You know what happened after Liberation Day? something that's only happened 13 times since 1970, 13 times in over 50 years. Stocks fell, bonds fell, and the dollar fell all at the same time. Normally, when stocks fall, people run to bonds for safety. Bonds go up or they run to dollars. Dollar goes up. There's always a safe haven. But not this time. Everything American fell together. This is called the Sell America trade. When investors dump everything American all at once because they've lost confidence in the whole system. You know, the last time this happened before 2025, 1981, 44 years ago, we witnessed something that happens maybe once in a generation. And most people have no idea it even happened. They were too busy watching TikTok and arguing about politics. Force number 2, the Federal Reserve battle. Now this is where it gets intense. And I need to explain this, simply because what's happening right now could change everything. The Federal Reserve controls interest rates in America. When inflation is high, they raise rates to cool things down. When the economy is weak, they lower rates to stimulate growth. For this system to work, the Fed needs to be independent. They make decisions based on economics, not politics, not because the president tells them to, not because Congress pressures them, based on data, based on what's best for the economy. Why does this matter? Because when politicians control central banks, currencies die. Look at Turkey. Their president pressured their central bank for years. Result? The Turkish lira lost 80% of its value. People's life savings destroyed. Look at Argentina. Political interference in their central bank. Result? Inflation over 100%. People carrying bags of cash to buy groceries. Look at Venezuela. Government controlled the money printer. Result? One of the worst hyperinflations in human history. A currency worth less than toilet paper. Literally. This is what happens when politicians control the central bank. This is why Fed independence matters. Now here's what's happening in America, and I need you to really hear this. Trump wants lower interest rates. He's been very public about this. He thinks high rates are strangling the economy, making it hard for businesses to borrow, making it hard for people to buy homes. Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, has resisted. He thinks rates need to stay where they are to control inflation. And here's where it got ugly. January 9th, 2026, the Department of Justice issued criminal subpoenas to the Federal Reserve. They targeted Chairman Powell with a criminal investigation. The official reason, questions about a $2.5 billion building renovation. Powell released a video statement, and what he said should make everyone, regardless of political party, pay attention. He said, "The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what serves the public rather than following the preferences of the president." Do you understand what Powell is saying? He's saying, they're investigating me because I won't lower rates just because Trump wants me to. Now, Trump supporters say Powell is the problem. They say he's deliberately keeping rates high to hurt the economy and damage Trump politically. They say he's a deep state actor who needs to go. Trump critics say this is terrifying. They say using the Justice Department to pressure the Fed is what happens in banana republics. They say this threatens the entire American financial system. I'm not going to tell you who's right, but I will tell you what the market did. The day after Powell's statement, gold exploded above $4,600 per ounce, all-time record. Investors were running for safety. They smelled smoke, and they weren't waiting to see the fire. Here's a simple rule of economics. When investors lose confidence in a country's central bank, they sell that country's currency. And that's what we saw happen. Now, remember what I said at the very beginning of this video. Your dollar died a little on Tuesday. This is why. This is what's killing it. Not one thing. A combination of forces all hitting at once. If you're still watching, you're already ahead of 95% of Americans who have no idea any of this is happening. Stick with me because what I'm about to show you next is even bigger. Force number 3, the debt time bomb. Now this one isn't about Trump specifically. This is a problem decades in the making. Both parties are responsible. Republicans, Democrats, Bush, Obama, Trump first term, Biden, Trump second term, all of them. But it's exploding right now. So you need to understand it. Here's a number. Burn it into your brain. 36.22 trillion. That's America's national debt. 36 trillion. That number is so big, it's meaningless to most people. So let me make it real. If you spent $1 every second, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no sleep, no breaks, it would take you over 1 million years to spend $36 trillion, 1 million years. But here's the thing. The debt itself isn't the immediate problem. The interest on the debt is the problem. In 2020, America paid $514 billion just in interest, not paying down the debt, not reducing it, just paying the interest to keep it from growing even faster. By early 2025, that number exploded to $114 trillion. The interest payments doubled in 5 years. But wait, it gets worse. According to the St. Louis Federal Reserve, interest payments now consume 34% of all U.S. tax revenue. Let that sink in. 1/3 of everything the government collects in taxes goes straight to interest payments. Not schools, not roads, not military, not healthcare. Interest. By 2035, interest payments are projected to hit 1.8 trillion per year. That's more than defense, education, and transportation combined. We will be paying more to service our debt than we spend protecting the country. And on top of all this, the U.S. just had its longest government shutdown in history because Congress couldn't agree on basic funding. More chaos, more uncertainty, more reasons for investors to look elsewhere. Now here's the moment that shook Wall Street. May 16th, 2025, Friday afternoon. Markets are about to close. Everyone's ready for the weekend. Moody's rating agency drops a bomb. They downgrade America's credit rating. You need to understand what this means. This is historic. Moody's is one of the three major agencies that rate how safe it is to lend money to governments. Since 1919, for 106 years, they gave America their highest rating. AAA, the safest investment in human history, through the Great Depression, 8AA through World War II, AEA through the 2008 financial crisis, TAZDA through COVID, TAZDA. In 2025, they downgraded America. All three major rating agencies have now downgraded the United States. S&P did it in 2011, Fitch did it in 2023, Moody's in 2025. For the first time in modern history, no major rating agency considers American debt perfectly safe. What does this mean practically? It means America has to pay higher interest rates to borrow money, which means the debt grows even faster, which means interest payments get even bigger, which means less money for everything else. It's a spiral, and we're in it. And through all of this, through the tariff chaos, through the Fed battle, through the debt explosion, through the credit downgrade, the president looks at the crashing dollar and says, the dollar is doing great. Okay, now let me show you what's happening while everyone is distracted by political drama on Twitter and cable news debates, because there's a massive wealth transfer happening right now. And if you're not paying attention, you're on the wrong side of it. Gold. On the same day, Trump said, great. Gold hit an all-time high, over $5,100 per ounce. But here's what's really insane. In January 2025, gold was around $2,640 per ounce. By January 2026, it crossed $5,000. That's almost double in 1 year. Gold gained 64% in 2025, the biggest annual gain since 1979. But wait until you hear about silver. Nobody's talking about silver, and they should be. Silver hit $116 per ounce in January 2026. In 2025, silver gained 150%. 150%. Let me put that in real numbers. If you had put $10,000 in silver at the beginning of 2025, you'd have $25,000 by the end of the year. While your dollar savings were losing value, silver more than doubled. Why? Why are precious metals exploding? Because when people lose faith in paper money, they buy things that governments can't print. Gold has been money for 5,000 years. Empires rise and fall, currencies come and go, gold remains, and right now everybody's buying it. Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest investment banks in the world, just released new price targets, and these numbers should make you pay very close attention. They predict gold could hit $6,350 by the end of 2026 and $8,650 by the end of 2027, $8,650 per ounce. That's almost double from where it is now. Why are they so bullish? Their analysts wrote that hedges against global macro and policy risks have become sticky. Now, let me translate that from Wall Street. Speak to English, investors are scared, and they're going to stay scared, so they're going to keep buying gold. But here's the part most people completely miss. It's not just individual investors buying gold. Central banks around the world are stockpiling gold at record levels. China has been buying for 14 straight months. Russia has over 2,300 tons. India is buying aggressively. Even Brazil made its first gold purchase since 2021, and here's a stunning statistic that blew my mind when I found it. According to the IMF and Bloomberg, for the first time in decades, the market value of gold held by foreign central banks has overtaken their holdings of U.S. treasuries. Think about what that means. The governments of the world, the people who actually understand money and power, are quietly moving from dollars to gold. That's not conspiracy theory, that's data. Now here's your Google it moment. This is the part where I want you to pause the video and verify what I'm saying. Search for BRICS gold-backed currency 2025. Go ahead, do it right now or after this video, but do it. You will find that in October 2025, the BRICS nations launched a pilot program for a new settlement currency. 40% backed by gold, 60% backed by their own national currencies. BRICS includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, plus new members like Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Together, they represent about half the world's population, over a third of global GDP. And here's the kicker. BRICS nations now control approximately 50% of global gold production. Russia produces 340 tons per year. China produces 380 tons. Combined with other members and strategic partners, they control half the world's gold supply. Their combined gold reserves exceed 6,000 tons. They're not just buying gold, they're producing it and hoarding it. Vladimir Putin said it plainly, we are not refusing, not fighting the dollar, but if they don't let us work with it, what can we do? We have to look for other alternatives. And that's precisely what they're doing, building alternatives. 90% of trade between BRICS nations is now settled in local currencies, not dollars. And China, here's a stat that should shock you. China's holdings of U.S. treasuries went from 40% of their foreign exchange reserves around 2010 to less than 1% by 2025. Less than 1%. They've been quietly dumping American debt for over a decade while everyone was distracted. The world is building an exit door from the dollar system. Now let me answer the question you clicked this video to find out. Is the dollar actually dying? Is this the end? Here's my honest answer, no. The dollar is not dying tomorrow. It's not dying next month. It's probably not dying next year. The dollar is still used in about 60% of global reserves. No other currency is even close. The euro is around 20%, the yuan is around 3%, the dollar is still king. But, and this is a big but, the trend is clear, the direction is unmistakable. 1970 dollar was over 80% of global reserves, 2024 down to 59%. And that's a slow decline over decades, but it's accelerating. The dollar isn't dying, but it's bleeding slowly, steadily. And the people in charge are looking at the wound and saying, great, that's not fear-mongering. That's just reading the data. So who's actually benefiting from all this chaos? Because somebody always wins, even in a crisis, especially in a crisis. Let me show you. The people who own gold and silver up 60 to 150% in 1 year, while everyone else's savings lost value. The hedge funds who bet against the dollar making money on every single drop. The multinational corporations with overseas operations. When the dollar is weak, their foreign profits look bigger when converted back to dollars. Stock prices go up. Executives get massive bonuses. The foreign governments who saw this coming years ago, China, Russia, India, they've been preparing for this moment while American politicians argued about everything except the actual problem. And the wealthy Americans who have financial advisors telling them exactly what to do. They're buying gold. They're buying foreign assets. They're hedging their exposure to the dollar. Meanwhile, regular Americans who keep their savings in dollars and don't pay attention to this stuff, they're watching their purchasing power evaporate slowly, invisibly, every single day. I'm not saying this is a conspiracy. I'm not saying anyone planned it to hurt regular people, but the effect is clear. Wealth is flowing from those who don't know to those who do. The question is, which group are you in? Now let me tell you about the 3 types of people watching this video right now. Type 1, the denier. You're thinking this is overblown. The dollar has been fine for decades. America always bounces back. The media always predicts doom, and it never happens. I don't need to worry about this stuff. And maybe you're right. I hope you're right. But here's my question. At what point do you start paying attention? The dollar is down 9% in a year. All 3 credit agencies have downgraded America. Gold is at all-time highs. BRICS is building an alternative system. Central banks are dumping dollars for gold. What would have to happen for you to take this seriously? A 20% drop? 50%. What's your number? Type 2. The panicker. You're thinking it's all over. The dollar is dead. America is finished. I need to sell everything and buy gold coins and bury them in my backyard and move to the countryside. Take a breath. Yes, what I've shown you is serious, but panic makes you do stupid things. Selling at the bottom, buying at the top, making emotional decisions you'll regret for years. The goal is not to panic. The goal is to understand and then act rationally. There's a difference. Type 3, the preparer. You're thinking, okay, I understand what's happening. I see the trends. What can I actually do about it? This is where you want to be. This is the smart position. You can't control what the president says. You can't control what the Federal Reserve does. You can't control whether Congress ever fixes the debt. You can't control what China or Russia or BRICS does, but you can control how you position yourself. Some people are diversifying out of pure dollar assets. Some are buying gold or silver as insurance. Some are investing in things that actually benefit from a weak dollar. Some are simply reducing debt and building emergency savings. So they're not vulnerable to shocks. I am not telling you what to do. This is not financial advice. I'm not your advisor. I don't know your situation. What's right for you depends on your age, your income, your goals, your risk tolerance. But I'm telling you this, doing nothing is also a choice. And in this environment, doing nothing might be the riskiest choice of all. The people who got rich during every financial crisis in history weren't the ones who panicked. And they weren't the ones who ignored the warning signs. They were the ones who paid attention, understood what was happening, and positioned themselves before everyone else figured it out. That's the opportunity right now. So let me bring this full circle. I started this video by telling you that your dollar died a little on Tuesday. Now you know why. You understand the three forces: tariff chaos, Federal Reserve battle, debt time bomb. You understand why gold and silver are exploding. You understand what BRICS is building. You understand who benefits and who gets hurt. The timeline is clear. By this summer, we'll know if the Fed holds firm or caves. By the end of 2026, Goldman thinks gold could hit 6,350.